Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I want to do a coverage of Leon's 3C skill, which is called Blue Dragon Strike. So this is the skill that you unlock from doing his awakening, and unfortunately, I did my awakening battles before this video. I thought I was actually recording, but I wasn't. So I'll have to briefly talk about the Phase 1 and Phase 2 battles instead of demonstrating how to clear them. Phase 1 is super easy, you have Leon, you're facing off against 3 enemies, Shuri first, then Hein, then an infantry Elwyn. So you should have absolutely no problems killing them with your Leon, right? He can pretty much one-shot each of them one by one, right? Chivalry and then use Assault on Shuri. Having the Chivalry buff to attack Hein would be no problem at all, and an infantry Elwyn is inherently vulnerable to a cavalry Leon, so all 3 should be easy kills, one by one. The second battle, to get the 3C skill Blue Dragon Strike though, is a bit more challenging, because that battle does involve you using Leon, and then you get 3 AI characters, which is an AI Egbert, an AI Vargas, and an AI Bernhard. And you're facing off against the exact same enemies. So Leon with Vargas, with Bernhard, with Egbert. The secret to that battle is to just retreat back to the left initially. Then the enemy Leon will charge ahead of his support characters because of Chivalry, making him an easy kill. After he's killed, then it's 4 on 3. And in addition to that, if you use your Egbert and Bernhard to AoE, that is, Egbert launches 2 AoE attacks and then Bernhard follows up with Sword Dance, the 3 AoE attacks in total will lead to all the enemies dying. So you don't have to worry too much about clearing that fight in my opinion. It shouldn't be too difficult. So with all that said, once you have the skill unlocked, let's talk about the skill, the way it works, and then show some examples of the skill being used in battle. First of all, Blue Dragon Strike is a 5 cooldown skill, and the effect is that when attacking, it actually has a terrible description because it's like they got a new translator. Okay. First of all, it should be saying attacks an enemy unit dealing 1.7 times damage. So just like Thousand Hooves, it's 1.7 times damage. Okay. Second effect of it is that after battle, right, all enemies within 1 block of Leon take 0.3 times AoE damage and are moved to another location on the battlefield, and they receive a debuff. This is actually a terrible description of its secondary effect, just like the first part. So maybe it's better for me to demonstrate it before going into this skill in detail. Okay, so the way it works is I'm just going to jump into a battle in, let's say, Twisted Fate. And why don't I use the battle I always use, the General Geyer If one. So, here we go. So I have Leon right here. Let's begin, and I'll do the demonstration. So, first of all, when I have Leon, let's say Chivalry up, and then use his Blue Dragon Strike, the initial attack, of course, does 1.7 times damage, which hits quite hard. Right? Now, the secondary effect of Blue Dragon Strike, which is the 0.3 times AoE damage and teleportation of enemies and so on, doesn't kick in until after you've retreated. So you get to move before that AoE attack occurs. Secondly, its effect is actually 1 ring. Okay, so it's not 1 block, it's not the 4 squares around it, it's 1 ring around it. So all 8 tiles around Leon. So in this case, if I place myself here, I can only affect this Lancer, but if I place myself here, I can affect both of these enemies. So let's move over and see the teleport effect. So I'm going to end my turn. I do AoE damage to these enemies, and they're supposed to get teleported. In this case, in a ridiculously bizarre luck element, both of them actually stayed in the exact same place. Okay, does not happen very commonly. So why don't I don't know. I'm gonna try to generate a different scenario to see. It's very rare for them to literally get teleported on the same spot that they originated from. For both of them too. So let's just try this attack again and see if it makes any difference. I know sometimes if I just retreat like this, it causes the exact same scenario to occur, which this actually did. So instead, you know what, I'm going to retreat and do this one more time. Annoying, but yeah, just bizarre. So let's try again. Okay. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. Oh, and I'm not expecting to teleport on the spot like last time. So, the attack, the end turn, the Blue Dragon Strike AoE, and there we go, some teleporting. So, now let's go into detail about this teleport effect then. When it says move to another location on the battlefield, it doesn't mean any random location on the whole battlefield. No. It is the AoE radius of this skill, which is 1 ring, right? So if I hit these guys with the AoE, they get randomly teleported in the 1 ring, those 8 tiles that Leon is on. So these guys could have been teleported forward, or you know, they could have stayed in the same spot as they did, or as we saw in this case, one got to stay in the same spot, the other got teleported a little bit south. Right? So they're randomly positioned in the 1 ring radius of Blue Dragon Strike. So because of this, in order to use this skill to its full potential, you need specific equipment. And that specific gear, well, there's only one specific equipment you need. And that gear is the one that you want for Bernhard and Leonhard, which is the Balanced Blade. Because the Balanced Blade increases the AoE skill effective range by 1. That means that Leon's Blue Dragon Strike will now have a 2 ring radius instead of 1. And that also applies to their teleported locations. So that's huge, right? 1 ring, the difference between 1 ring and 2 ring is absolutely massive. So having a Balanced Blade is a must if you ever plan to use this skill. The drawback of using a Balanced Blade, of course, is that the Balanced Blade does not provide any attack increase whatsoever. If we take a look here, it provides a defense and magic defense increase of 5%. So you're going to lose 10% attack if you choose to use the Balanced Blade over, let's say, a Sealed Guardian or a similar weapon. So there is that drawback. As a result of this, Leon for Apex Arena is ultimately quite terrible. Because in Apex Arena, Leon will be lacking the damage to one-shot an enemy tank, right? We've already seen it even now in the past few seasons. Leon cannot one-shot tanks in general. Not when they have a faction buff up, not when they have Triton up, you know, that kind of stuff. And then if the enemy tank is Lancer, of course you're not going to be able to one-shot them as a cavalry class character. So Leon is not really a tank buster. In addition to that, generally speaking for Apex Arena, the maps are large, so they get lots of time to set up and position so that your Blue Dragon Strike AoE should not affect that many targets in the first place, ultimately. So that's the massive drawbacks of using Leon in Apex Arena. It just doesn't seem to work, not with this Blue Dragon Strike skill. However, there is one game mode that Leon is absolutely amazing in, and that is in World Arena. Of course, even being used in World Arena, it is map dependent, because World Arena's maps now include both the Apex Arena maps, which are larger, as well as the World Arena maps, which are the small ones that World Arena maps originally were. If in the scenarios where you get a small map, your player 1, you should deploy Leon with his 3C skill, and it can absolutely win you matches. So I am going to demonstrate one battle where this occurred, and it's a battle where I was facing off against Leon rather than using him myself, and that's against Judas. So, you know, this week I got 7 wins and 1 loss, and that 1 loss was due to someone using Leon with Blue Dragon Strike. So I'm just going to demonstrate that battle and go over the details of how it played out. So here we go. Alright, so before I begin, a few things to comment about. So you see here that on my side I have 5 characters. I'm actually player 2. He's player 1. Okay, and my characters are basically more defensive than his party is. I have Landius as a tank, surrounded by Omega, Zerida, Luna as my attackers, and finally Liana with Act Again and Prayer rounds out the party. Right. On his side, he went full aggression with his setup. Leon in the top left. Right. Diharto, which is an assassin style Diharto. Right. It's a cavalry assassin. That's what it is. So it can strike and then use the ignore guard skill. There's also Verakia in the mix. There's Zerida. And finally, there is Luna. So an all-attack team, right? And we're going to see how that team works out in World Arena. So what he's doing is he first has Leon chivalry forward and then uses the 3C skill, Blue Dragon Strike on me. So you can see here that Leon, first of all, fails to kill off my Landius, right? Although he comes very close. But then the Blue Dragon Strike, the AoE damage, does actually finish off my Landius. In addition, because this Leon has the Balanced Blade, all my characters got teleported away because everyone was within the 2-ring radius. So, and you can see here my randomly positioned characters got totally shifted around everywhere due to that 2-ring radius, right? And I got shifted in the, of course, bunch of characters got shifted forward. So this is already a bit of a nightmare. Took lots of damage and got myself shifted forward. So I have to counterattack, and I send my Luna charging forward to strike the enemy Zerida here. This, in hindsight, is probably a mistake. Okay. But I'll continue on. I'll go over why it may have been a mistake shortly, but my thought was take out the enemy faction buffer here. So, my opponent then responds by having Diharto charge forward, use Strike for plus 20% attack, and then assassinates my Omega. Just like that. In addition, because this Diharto has Lion's Roar, the exclusive helmet for Diharto, since he killed someone, my Zerida is stunned. Now, this is also a luck element and map element where because of the map, my Liana is unable to move to a position to remove that debuff on my Zerida. Because I think she spawned here, right? In order for me to remove that debuff, at the bare minimum, Liana would have had to move down here. But due to the water terrain here, I could not move down to that location. So there is some elements of bad luck in this loss, right? Because I could not get Zerida to faction buff up herself, for example. In any case, though, I have my Liana activate Prayer and also heal up Landius a bit. And my opponent counters with having Luna charge forward to win God Realm and Raging Thunder. Fails to kill off my Landius, however, but does apply that cannot be healed debuff on Landius. So I just move him down to try to protect Zerida, and his Verakia wipes out my Luna and then gets to act again to charge forward. So he's able to shift all those characters that he has forward very aggressively, and then have Verakia attack my Zerida. Right? So I'm trying to counter here desperately as best as I can, and I start things off with trying to have my Zerda wipe out the enemy Luna. But there's not enough damage, leaving him alive with around 3,000 hit points. Right? The resurrection of the Hellfire Archers does additional fixed damage, but still doesn't kill him. So this is a problem because, well, my Zerda could not faction buff the last turn. So I'm not able to one-shot these enemies. He has his Leon try to take out my Liana, but Shrine Maidens keeps her alive. And I'm just trying to protect my characters in general. So I have Landius, activate the guard skill, and he tanks a hit from Dihorto without any issue. So here then, I try to act again, Zerda, and then have Zerda attack this Leon, which also lives because once again, I just don't have enough damage without a faction buff. So that's two characters that, if I was able to faction buff, would be dead. Right? Nonetheless, battle continues. And this is where I get really screwed. Firakia uses maneuver to shift my Landius over. And then, since she gets to act again, she then wipes out my Liana with an attack. So, I now try to kill off Firakia with my Zerda, once again, lacking a bit of damage from wiping out this character. Right? And then now, she gets to use her Luna to attack my Landius and wipe my Landius out. So at that point, it's over, right? And then I run away here. Could I have won this? Potentially. If my Liana was able to remove that stun debuff on Zerda, and I had Zerda activate faction buff on turn 1, then theoretically, Firakia, Luna, and Leon would be dead. At which point I would have had Landius and Zerda. Sorry, I would have had Zerda and Liana against the enemy Dihorto at that point, right? So yes, but it also shows that a full aggression strategy like Judas ran can be very, very efficient and powerful in this kind of situation. Yeah. Much more than you would expect. Right? And the whole reason this worked was in the first place because of Leon with his 3C skill. Without that skill to completely break up my formation, do damage to my party, and just, leave lots of my characters vulnerable to the enemy attack, this would have never occurred, right? In particular, Dihorto would have never been able to kill off any of my characters if they were at full hit points due to last rites. So it just shows an incredible power of Leon with the 3C skill in World Arena. Now, with all this said, generally speaking, this kind of strategy would only work if you were player 1, right? Because if you're a player 2, the enemy gets to act first, and they can probably shift around a bit and reduce the impact of your Leon in the first place. Although it's possible it could work as player 2 too. I'm not entirely sure on that point, to be perfectly honest. But I feel like this is more a strategy meant for P1 than it is for P2. So, there we have it. An example of Leon's 3C skill being used very, very effectively. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. I mean, the 3C skill for Leon is not that great in any other situations, I imagine, at this time. There may be a use in PvE content, maybe challenges in the future, but I don't think that's all that likely either. It's pretty rare that you need to break up any formations in PvE content. So, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video useful to you. And on that note, Nitro out.